sync. Hello and welcome to the Nerdom podcast, your one-stop shop for all things pop culture, cinema, and geek. It's been a while, guys. It has been a long time. I took a brief hiatus, now I'm back. But while I was gone, news didn't stop. No, we got like a new season of Mandalorian, and we got announcement of several new Star Wars projects being released by Star Wars. That's freaking amazing. We also got Wonder Woman 84. And another awesome DC film. It's 2021 right now, if you can believe that. Yeah, 2020 wasn't the best year, but things happen and we just have to deal with them. But we can hold out for all the new stuff that's coming out. We got WandaVision coming out in January. I didn't know it was coming out that soon. January is going to be WandaVision, and it's looking very psychedelic. It's, well, not really psychedelic, kind of just like mind-boggling, because there's so many aspects to it that are kind of unexplained right now. But when it comes out, I'm sure we'll get some answers, because it looks like if Wanda was having like a mental breakdown, and we got to see it, and I think that's what it is. Because I was watching the trailer for it, and it's some spooky stuff. I'm like, I've been hearing that they might do a horror project, Disney, on their behalf. I don't think they'd go quite as far as horror, but this could be the closest thing we get to it, which is really weird, really weird. But you know what? The biggest thing that I caught up on during the break, during Christmas, just kind of binging it all, was The Mandalorian. My God, those were 8 episodes of just wow. All right, so you have Din Djarin. He comes back and he's dealing with the kid. By the way, I should add, there's going to be spoilers in this because we're going to be talking about this stuff, and you've had months to watch it, and if you haven't watched it, been stuck in your house for the past, I don't know, 12 months. So, get your priorities straight. Jeez. But The Mandalorian was so good. Yeah, you have Din Djarin coming back. He's taking care of the kid. Grogu now. They finally gave him a name on the Ahsoka episode, which is, they brought an Ahsoka back. And there were some comments about, like, her, I don't know what those are called, like ears? The things that come off her head. In the Rebels TV show, they were much longer. And that's when she was working with Kanan Jarrus. And for the entire time, she had this older look to her. In the TV show with Din Djarin and The Mandalorian, Rosario Dawson really kills it as Ahsoka. And it was hard for me to say at first, like, whether or not I liked it, because the voice actress for Ahsoka in the Clone Wars TV show is just so good. By the way, I don't know if I've covered that already, but the Clone Wars TV show was really good. That's kind of old news, but it's kind of old but also new news, because we got a preview of the Bad Batch in the Clone Wars, and now we're getting another sequel, I want to say. I don't think it's a season of the Clone Wars. Clone Wars is over. The last episode was essentially Ahsoka escaping with Captain Rex. That is the end of the Clone Wars. Which, man, Star Wars is like set in this timeline, and it's so weird to me because I'll see something like the clone armor changing and shifting into the type that we saw in Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith. My bad. And it brings back all these memories, because it's like, I saw them do some really bad crap in Revenge of the Sith. And, man, it's kind of empty when you, like, think about it. because you're like, man, I really love this clone battalion, or I really like Jesse or Fives or any of those guys, and it's like, well, we know what's going to happen to them, because no matter how you slice it, they have certain outcomes associated to them. Like the 501st is essentially mostly wiped out by the end of the Clone Wars, because a large portion dies in the Siege of Mandalore. Another portion dies on the Venator Star class destroyer when it crashes down with Ahsoka in it. And another portion of it dies when Yoda and Obi-Wan go to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and try and send out a message to everybody. And it's just weird, you know? It's harrowing when you think about it. That's depressing. Let's talk about Mandalorian. Because, man, there was... I know I'm saying man a lot in this, but The Mandalorian was amazing this year. And honestly, Dave Filoni has been killing it with just producing Star Wars content that resonates both with like newer audiences and older audiences. And I'll get to the last episode in a second. Because Filoni was tied into Star Wars at this point. He met with George Lucas and got the A-OK from him for Star Wars, the Clone Wars. He directed Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and he led it from Cartoon Network to Disney. Originally, it wasn't set in stone that it was going to get as many seasons as it did, and it was canceled on Cartoon Network. But then Disney picked it up, and they started running with it again. And that was just amazing to me, because that means he and the fans loved this property so much that they brought it back, and that's honestly what I love seeing. And The Mandalorian, I think, is kind of a high point in that kind of behavior, because we get so many callbacks, and depending on where you are with it, you might appreciate all the callbacks to the other movies and to the other shows and all the other different types of media, or you might just think, well, it's a bunch of fan service. But the biggest thing is it's cool fan service. At the end of the day, you still have Boba Fett coming back on screen after being thrown into a Sarlacc pit. That is just really amazing, and we're getting another season of that. We are getting a season dedicated to Boba. It's the Book of Boba Fett, the Book of Fett. Most of the critics that I watched after the episode aired, they kind of glanced over that portion, that after credits scene, because Fennec and Boba Fett go into Jabba's palace and kind of just takes over the place. We get a small cameo from his, I want to say like Vizier guy. He's I forget what alien species it is, but Boba Fett just goes and cleans house and takes a seat in the throne. And it makes me think that we're going to be seeing a crime syndicate story where Boba Fett takes over a massive amount of power. And that's going to be so awesome. Because we kind of saw that, we kind of saw it fleeting with Darth Maul. He was in charge of a crime syndicate after the Siege of Mandalore. He escapes the Venator along with Ahsoka. Separate ways, though, but he gets out of there in time. And he starts up another crime syndicate that we see in Solo, A Star Wars Story. And we don't really see much after that. We see him like ignite his lightsaber. We see that he has a pendant with the organization's creed on it. But after that, we really don't see him until like Rebels, in which case he deals with the Rebel crew, and he has the showdown with Obi-Wan on Tatooine. But that's pretty much what we see of him, which is a shame, because man, they took Maul and they really flushed him out. And that's another thing Dave Filoni did really well. He was just this Sith Lord who got cut in half and had maybe like 5 lines of dialogue in the entire movie of Phantom Menace. Really awesome fight scene, but Dave Filoni brings him back in Clone Wars and introduces so much depth to this character that it's like I know he's a bad guy, but I'm also rooting for him to get what he wants, if that makes sense. But I guess I can't really like play around it right now. The last episode, they bring in it's a little bit of a controversial choice because they did something similar in Rogue One, but they bring back Luke Skywalker. It's just awesome to see him back. The first like few scenes that they kind of set him up for is Grogu reaches out to the Force and calling out any Jedi Masters to search him out and train him. And at this time, we know that Luke was creating his Jedi Temple. And for anybody who's watched the sequel trilogy, with Rey and Kylo Ren, you kind of already know what the aftermath of that is. It does not end well. For those of you who don't know, Kylo Ren essentially destroys Luke's Jedi Temple and goes to the dark side. And that's because Luke saw darkness in him, ignites his lightsaber, and there's a big misunderstanding. Like, oh, you were about to kill me in my sleep. Guess who's going Darth now? And then we get the sequel trilogy. Which, this is the one part that I didn't like about it. I didn't like the fact that we already knew what the aftermath is going to be. Now, anything could happen in between now and then. The history behind Luke's Jedi Temple has kind of been solidified in Legends, but in canon, they're still forming it. So anything could happen. We just know what the ending of it's going to be. We don't know who the students were. We don't know their fates. We don't know a lot of things. So Grogu could just make it out like, I don't know, a couple of years before that event even happens. Or maybe Grogu doesn't even go to the Jedi Temple and something happens. We don't know. And here's one of the controversial things that I wanted to see, because I think it... Just because I'm a big fan of the actor. And those of you who are like huge Star Wars nerds might be like, well, actually, that wouldn't really work out, we haven't seen anything canonically, But Mace Windu would have been awesome. I love Samuel L. Jackson. He is one of my favorite actors. But it would be amazing to see Mace Windu come back, because he's had such a long time just kind of on the sidelines, because he had both of his hands cut off by Anakin Skywalker, he got electrocuted by Palpatine, and he got thrown off of a building, the Senate building. So, at first glance, you might be like, well, he did. But here's the thing about lightsabers. They cauterize the wound instantly. That's why you don't see a bunch of blood around. Kind of why Disney's able to get away with maiming people with lightsabers. It's crazy, but that's kind of one of the ways that they get around it. Lightning doesn't really have a huge fatality rating. Darth Maul was electrocuted by Palpatine. I think Ben Solo was also electrocuted by lightning. He might have just been force pushed at the end of Rise of Skywalker. I have to rewatch it, but oh yeah, Ben Solo is Kylo Ren. Surprise! Han Solo's son. So, sorry I broke that one for you guys. Obi-Wan was electrocuted by force lightning. Yoda was electrocuted by... A lot of people have been electrocuted by Force Lightning, and they've survived. And, lest we forget, Anakin Skywalker lost his hand, got a replacement. Luke lost his hand, got a replacement. Man, prosthetics in the galaxy far, far away is great. Like, you lose a appendage, you can get a new one. And usually it's gonna be cool. Like, either you're gonna get, like, a really cool robot hand, or you're gonna get some spider legs. Oh yeah, freaking Darth Maul got cut in half, so don't even at me with that. He got his hands cut off. Come on, that's a super easy thing to survive. Now, granted, in real life, I don't know about that. With Star Wars logic, it's easy to survive. Sounds ridiculous saying it out loud, but we've seen it in Star Wars. And then he fell off a very high place. That was essentially most of the Clone Wars. Every Jedi, like, fell about 500 meters on a given episode, and they survived just fine. Heck, even Mace Windu survived an assassination attempt by Boba Fett when a downed Venator he was investigating got blown up and him underneath it. So he can survive a lot. I think Mace Windu could come back, and I think it would have worked better story-wise to see him come back, because we know what's going to happen with Luke. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen with Windu. And then there's a lot of beef between Windu and Boba Fett, which, since we're focusing on Boba Fett for a season, I feel like that could have played in really well. But to be fair, there is some beef between him and Luke as well, because Luke kind of threw him into a Sarlacc pit. We don't want to forget that. But Mace Windu would have been so cool to see, you know? Because he's worked with Yoda before. He's trained with him. He's been in the Jedi Temple. He had a seat as a master. And while, yes, it was confirmed that Luke was the strongest Jedi at his time, at the height of power, when Darth Vader just died and Palpatine was quote-unquote dead, you know, interpret it as you will, because, man, you gotta, like, really read Legends, or you have to, like, look at the canonical books just to understand what happened. But all of that happened, and still, Luke Skywalker was a great add-on. I liked it. Here's something that I was kind of hoping for them to do. In Rogue One, they did face replacement for Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia. They got an actress who looked like Carrie Fisher, and they got an actor that looked like Tarkin. They needed a young Carrie Fisher for the role, so they had to, like, face replace the footage they already had of Carrie Fisher onto an actress who looked like her, and then same deal for Moff Tarkin. And they didn't work out too well. On portions where the frame's still, right, you can't tell the difference. Then when they're moving, no, it looks, wow, it looks crazy. So I didn't really like the fact that they went with the face replacement road. Personally, I'm fine with recasting. Like, movies do it all the time and they work out. Like in Doctor Sleep with Ewan McGregor. Yep, Obi-Wan. And they replaced the actors for young Danny Torrance. They replaced it for the mother. They replaced it for Jack Torrance, who was played by I don't know. He was the Joker in the Val Kilmer Batman, and it worked out fine. Everybody liked the movie, you know, as a horror movie, not necessarily because it was a feel-good movie, but it worked out. They did just fine with character replacement, just replacing the actor. But with you have some actors already Disney use that look just like young not Harrison Ford, look like young Mark Hamill, like Sebastian. I said his name Sebastian Bjorn a couple times, and that's definitely not it. First name Sebastian, and he played the Winter Soldier in Captain America and in the Avengers movies. He looks just like him. There were some photoshops out there where they just put like a bowl cut on him, kind of like just the Mark Hamill haircut in A New Hope, and he just looks like him. I think that would have been fine. But, you know, of course, having Mark Hamill on set, that's a treat for anybody. And these guys are all fans, so they want to have Mark Hamill on the set as many times as they can get him. There was also a funny video of George Lucas holding Baby Yoda, and it's weird because somebody did a side-by-side piece where they took the old picture of George Lucas and the old Yoda from like I think it's like Return of the Jedi, either Return of the Jedi or the Empire Strikes Back, where Yoda just looks old and he's really young because he's young at that point. And then they did it today, and then it's like Baby Yoda and old George Lucas. It's really funny because they aged in reverse, kind of like a Doctor Who reference. You know, if anybody's a Doctor Who fan out there, Doctor Who fan. But there's just so much happening with Star Wars right now, and it just looks so good. It looks so good. So we know that Baby Yoda's went with Luke, and assumably he's going to train for about 10 years until Jedi Temple 2 happens again. Oh no. I just realized that Baby Yoda is going to witness 2 Jedi temples get destroyed. That's terrible. Like, most Jedi only get to see one. Like, Anakin died before Luke made his Jedi temple, and that sucks. That sucks. That's really dark, but that sucks. So yeah, that's another thing they're gonna have to really kind of focus on, and we come back to it. Wow. We also get a essentially Top Gun in Star Wars, because we're getting the X-Wing TV show. That looks really good. I'm interested in seeing that because it's the same director that did Wonder Woman, and I really like those movies. So I think that's gonna turn out really good. What else? Oh yeah, that's right. I almost completely forgot. We're also getting Obi-Wan as a TV show. It's been confirmed. They're actually doing the filming for it now. Well, I don't think right now, but that was such up in the air for so long. And I think after season 2 of The Mandalorian, they were like, okay, we're going all in on the TV shows. Anything we can put out, just get them out there. Because I think what put it off originally was that Solo didn't do too well. I thought it was a fine film. I thought it was great. But apparently didn't match up to what they needed in terms of box office figures. So they were kind of like, let's kind of hold our bets here until we see how Mandalorian's doing. And then it did really well, so they're like, wow, okay, we're gonna all the TV shows, put them out there, announce like 17 of them, and then recall about 5 of them later in the year. That's a joke, but you know that happens. You know, some companies get like overzealous and they just announce a bunch of projects, and then later on it's like, well, we lost our director or we lost our lead, and yeah. Oh yeah. That's another thing. Going sidetracking over to Harry Potter. I know, weird connection, but Mads Mikkelsen has just signed on a few weeks ago as Grindelwald. Now, if you've heard, Johnny Depp got taken off because of the court case with Amber Heard. That's a huge mess I'm not going to deal with because that's court proceedings and you can interpret it as you will. Johnny Depp got taken off for both Pirates of the Caribbean and, Harry Potter, essentially. And Pirates of the Caribbean, I kind of fell off around like the last movie that they did, because it just feels like super oversaturated. Like they should have changed main characters a while ago, because for the longest time Johnny Depp made the series. Like, if you took Johnny Depp out, I don't think you'd have as successful as a movie as you did. So when you started giving movies to just him, it kind of just highlights the point that, yeah, these movies kind of hinged on him being the star power. And I think that's where Disney's starting to see that, and they're like, well, we might need to change some things. Because, honestly, I love the Pirates movies, you know, for the most part. And when Johnny Depp was announced to be taken off, I'm like, okay. The 6th movie didn't really look that great. It had like a bunch of different stuff. It had mythology brought in. Like, it's not the first time we've seen the supernatural get put into the Pirates universe, but this was like really heavy, and I don't know, it just didn't seem as cool as the other ones. Like, the other ones had like a tone that had very dark colors. You felt like you were on the sea. You were like, man, this is so cool. Like, skeleton crews about like the Black Pearl, and Davy Jones with his like sea covered ship rising out of the water. That just seems so cool. And then you had Blackbeard, which, yeah, that was an intimidating character, but it wasn't as cool as Barbossa or Davy Jones. They kind of fell away from that kind of style. It's just a me thing. It depending on your taste, it could completely change. You could think completely differently, and honestly, I wouldn't fault you for it. You have your opinions, I have mine, and let's just be civil about it. But yeah, that changed, and it kind of highlights the thing. Going back to Harry Potter, because I'm going all over the place. Harry Potter needs an extended universe. The more I think about it, because you watch Harry Potter, and it's essentially about Harry Potter. That's the entire series, and then you get the Fantastic Beasts movies. Yeah, okay, that was based on a textbook. They scratched the surface so much for content from Harry Potter that they were like, well, we could probably make a screenplay about this gimmicky textbook that J.K. Rowling released a few years back. And it just screams why they need a continued universe. I don't know what they need, but they need something to supplement. They need something to supplement it. Because you've had these movies that people have grown to like watch year after year after year, and like new audiences along with old audiences are watching them constantly. Like, there isn't a moment where I say Harry Potter and somebody doesn't know what I'm talking about. They know it because it's so iconic. Everybody wants their Hogwarts letter. Everybody wants their Harry Potter one. Heck, when I was over at Universal Studios, I got my Harry Potter one. It's, it's expensive and it's a gimmick, but that's what people want. Like, they want the items from the movies. And they want more content coming out of those movies and stuff like that. And granted, they don't want more content coming out of J.K. Rowling, because I feel like there's some controversial things. And again, one of the things I'm not going to get into. Just not going to do that. But they need more content. Like, you think about it, you have huge worlds like juggernauts like Marvel and Disney and DC and all these other entertainment properties, and they have this expansive entertainment universe. Heck, even Star Trek might have the most expansive universe I've seen, where they just have so many different stories going on at one time that it's like, okay, I can like this character, but this could be my favorite. Or I have my pick of so many different stories to choose from, and they all thematically have the same kind of elements to them. We really don't have that with Harry Potter. With Harry Potter, we follow this one person through 7 books, 8 movies. Actually, technically, 8 books now, because we do have the screenplay from the show play. And I feel like fans just want more content. And whether that be another movie or another, like a TV show, like what Star Wars does, I feel like fans just need that, because these characters have grown with us for so long, and we've wanted more content coming from them. And it's easy stuff to do, you introduced so many complex characters that you can go to, like the Aurors. How awesome would it be to see a TV show just about Aurors going around, dealing with magical problems like across a city or across a country, or like just going over across the sea to the Americas, learning about the American Congress, American Magical Congress. It has a huge name. I'm not gonna remember it off the top of my head, But how cool would that be? And there's so many properties that you could do this kind of work with. Harry Potter is just one example with it. Newt Scamander and Grindelwald and Dumbledore, all of these characters have been around for centuries, because like revealed that some of them survive longer. I actually take back my last comment. Newt Scamander has a relatively normal lifespan. He doesn't survive more than longer than Dumbledore. Dumbledore's like hundreds of years old. Like that's you don't really get that kind of you don't really get that idea watching the movies until like the very end. You start like noticing, well, something doesn't add up here, because there's a gap of time there. That was like, I don't know, 25 years ago, something like that, and he looks like that, and I'm like, oh, okay, wow. But yeah, there's just so much stuff that I feel like Harry Potter can go into. There's magical creatures. You can really get creative with it, and we just don't have that kind of content out there. And it's not like fans can like submit stories and try and create content on their own, because it's, at the end of the day, it's not going to be canon. You know, so J.K. Rowling one day says, well, I'm going to write another short story. It could invalidate pretty much everything that you've written. And it sucks, because it's one of those properties that I feel like it's not suited for public domain, because it's a pretty large property. I mean, they're still making money off of it. Streaming services are fighting over the rights to stream these movies on their platforms. But at the same time, you have this expanded world that's not even used or utilized at all, with characters that could be introduced, new character ideas that people have all the time. And it sucks, because I kind of just look on like the fan art forums for like major properties, because usually there's some really creative stuff on there. Like Harry Potter is like one of the biggest ones that I've seen, that I'm like, wow, these are some really awesome character concepts that I would love to see in a movie or in a TV show, or even in the books. Just like kind of just bring them in somewhere, and they just look so good, and I want to see them expressed more. But again, it's not their property. It's intellectual property, so that means this huge thing that fans have grown to love, they really can't contribute to. I know so many fans that would love to contribute to these kinds of properties, like Star Wars. I know people who would love to like at least write a story or make a character or do something to add on to the huge galaxy that is Star Wars. It's the same way with Harry Potter. I know so many people who want to add on to this by like writing another story or introducing a new character, so we have a different dynamic, so it's something new. But again, intellectual property, so we're not able to actually work with it. And you know, it sucks, sure, but it just gets the fans wanting to see more of this content. And with the trend that's going on, where companies are listening more and more to what their viewers are asking for, like Warner Brothers, I'm pretty sure they own the license to Harry Potter. No, on second thought, let me kind of twist that around. J.K. Rowling is very protective of her copyright, and she has a right to. She absolutely has a right to maintain her copyright on Harry Potter, because it's her intellectual property. It's her baby. She worked years on this book series that generated billions of dollars, and the reason she's not a billionaire right now is because she donated her money, so she stayed at a millionaire status. So it's not that she's a bad person, no, and I don't even want people to have that thought when they think about J.K. Rowling, because yes, she does say some controversial things, but at the end of the day, she still is a relatively nice person. I I don't think a lot of people really understand what that kind of behavior is like, because everybody's like, oh, well, you did this bad thing, so there's no redemption here. And that's not how it works at all. You need to kind of take a step back and say, well, yeah, we understand that that was kind of like a bad thing to say, but also it did all this work, and we'll be like, but don't you do it again. But still, it's not a reason to demonize a person for it. But and that's one of the biggest things about news, is that people can cling on to something that somebody says, and then that is how they're defined, and that's not how things should be done at all. It's one of the key problems that I'm seeing today, because we see that in politics, we see that in how companies are run. It sucks, because people are just running with concepts that they really don't know a lot about. And then they just think, well, because they did this, that means that's all that they did. No, that's... I hate it when people run with a tabloid headline and just think that's all the information that needs to be known. Because it's really not. Life is more complex than that. It's not just being able to say, well, I'm right because this, and this, and this. No, it's knowing where nuance is, knowing where to say, well, yeah, that's true, but this can also be true. It's something that a lot of people just kind of gloss over, and we need to kind of address that. And unless we start doing that as individuals, we're not going to do that at all. Welcome to the deep moment of the Nerdom podcast, everybody. I'm glad to join you here. Sorry it got really deep for a second there, but that's kind of what we're dealing with here. I'm trying to make it less deep right now, because wow, that was kind of that was taking a left when there was no road. I don't know if that's a phrase, but I'm sure it's probably a phrase now. Oh, and a quick announcement here. We are doing some new content during the week, because I felt like I could. So we're gonna be doing some Let's Plays Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you guys are interested, you can go ahead and check that out. It's gonna be on the Nerdom YouTube site, so check out Nerdom. I'll put a quick picture up on the YouTube. Those of you listening on Spotify or a podcasting platform that can only hear me, then, well, if you want to see that kind of content, go ahead and check me out on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, depending on what platform you are. I know Spotify is different. It's like following system or stuff like that. On YouTube, it's like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon to be notified when new videos come out. That helps me out a lot. The new videos coming out, the first one should be Among Us. So I play Among Us. Yay, I finally get into the trend. Wonder how long that's going to last. And then after that, I have some more games going up there. And again, it really depends on how many viewers I get for it. And without further ado, I guess it's time to say goodbye, guys. See you again next week, or next month, or next year, depending. I don't know. Last time I took a hiatus because it was I was going to college, so I was dealing with college stuff for a while. That was pretty much all I had to say. So, bye guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, follow, reshare, re-hashtag, reblog. Thank you. Bye.